What's up, guys? Kellen from Action Backers here. Happy Tuesday. Hopefully, you're having a great week. So obviously, last week was a bit of a down week. My video, I talked about some changes we need to make because we weren't really profiting. So obviously, sticking to the process, and things have started to turn around. So I'm always playing around with different things, constantly tweaking the model, seeing how I can make things better and improve things as the season goes on. So I just want to take you through quickly this week on a few things that I've implemented. So last week I was talking about the profitability and finding like certain ranges where we're profitable. This week I've actually built some power ratings to see sort of where the teams stack up and sort of like what the margin should be and factoring that into the picks. So doing some back testing. I've gone through and I've calculated any time that the forecast, the outcome when the forecast shows correctly. So here it's if it's like this first one here, 0.118. That's just saying that the home team, that's essentially like zero point 0.1 goals they're gonna win by. So obviously like win by one or zero. And they won 3-2. And then anytime it's negative, that just means that's the edge for the visitor. So there's a negative home edge. So all I'm doing is adding or subtracting from the home edge when I calculate my model. But going through and seeing historically how this is done so far in the year, it's hitting at over I think it was 65% or something like crazy. Something really solid. That on its own doesn't really matter though, because that's not factoring in odds, right? So if it's hitting at 60 or 65%, but the odds are on average, minus 250, we're probably not making money at that point. I double check. If we are making money, it's not a lot, right? So, but we're factoring in the power ratings, and then you can see I'm updating this, and I've just used a solver to do this. And some math. So essentially it's just it finds sort of like what the best home edge is, and then it adds it depending on who's playing. And then obviously I've created some power rankings here as well. So you can see right now, like Washington is in first. Let me move that. Washington's in first, Pittsburgh second, yada yada yada, and you can see like some teams. So Vegas, they laid a beating on Calgary after the other game, and they jumped up 7 spots. Buffalo has been struggling, so they've fallen 4 spots from where they were previously. Calgary's also fallen, things like that. So on their own, they don't mean much, but when I factor them into the model, it's actually been really useful and really interesting. The other thing is, and if I hop over to the model itself, so if you're watching this before today, before today's games, you're gonna get my picks for free essentially, because I've already posted them here. So as a little thanks for watching, I guess you get my picks today, which is good. So if we go over to the model, you can see I've actually added in a few different things here. So this is pulling in the projected home advantage, as I talked about from the other page, and that just gets tacked on to the home team. So whoever the home team is. So obviously in this example, the Sharks, it would take 0.112 goals away from the Sharks. And then now so I used to just calculate the projections like this, where it was 60 40 would add up to 100. But now I've started factoring in, because I have this nice Poisson distribution, started factoring in the draw percentages. And sort of comparing to see if there's because sometimes there's not a lot of value in the overtime included money line, but sometimes there can be a lot of value in the regulation only money line. And sometimes, so you'll see here where I have a couple teams drawing, I have neither of those teams winning at more than 55% of the time. So if we just, and this might be slow because I'm recording the video, as you guys know. If we just go up here and add these guys in, you can see it's telling me to take the draw. And that's because the most likely score, if we go over to the distribution, you can see 4.83%. The most likely score is 3-3. And you can see the win percentage in regulation, and that's important because obviously these win percentages up above, this is for the entire game, right? So it's, a slight edge to Winnipeg, and this value is not correct because I haven't entered the odds, but the win percentage is correct. So the slight edge to Winnipeg, but this is the entire game, so this is OT included. And what down here is saying is essentially neither team has a 50 or a greater percent chance of winning in regulation. So whenever I see that, and I also see there's not a lot of value in either the regulation only or the OT included money lines, which I've already run this. I know these numbers aren't correct, but even with the correct numbers, this is the outcome. In that case, I'll take the draw. So you're losing a little bit of EV when you take the draw. You can see I haven't found a game yet where the odds on the draw are actually better than the odds you're getting, but it's really close. And we've implemented this strategy. And on Saturday, I had 2 official picks and then 1 pick that I was testing, and we went 3 for 4 on the draw. And the draws pay huge money, so it's a really easy way to make some profit. And then the other nice thing too is you can, and I tried this on Sunday, it didn't work, but I'll look at it again in certain situations, depending. And I find like if it's 2 teams on a back-to-back, they're both playing their backup maybe, or 2 weaker teams. There are certain opportunities, and off the top of my head, I'm not going to pull them out, but there are certain opportunities where you can actually bet the draw for both teams to go to overtime, and then also find value in one of those teams winning. So you could take them with the OT included as well. So potentially what could happen. So for instance, on Saturday, the Islanders played Philly. Now, I had the Islanders as a big favorite, so I bet them in regulation only. That didn't come true. They ended up winning in a shootout. So if we had the right numbers, we could have said, okay, Islanders and Philly, we're going to bet the draw. So regulation, if they're tied after regulation, if it goes to overtime, we win that bet. And then we also could have bet the Islanders money line, overtime included. And in that case, we would have won the draw bet and we would have won the Islanders bet. So there's some opportunity there. And the reason we would want to sometimes take the regulation only money line is if we like a team, if they're a big favorite, but we're not getting a lot of value in the overtime included, then you can look at the regulation. And if you think that they're easily going to win the game or they're going to win by more than 1 goal, then, and obviously that shouldn't be on a hunch, that should be based on numbers, then you can knock some of the juice down by taking them in regulation. So that's what we've been working on. It's been really successful. Still trying to get these numbers to a point that I'm confident with. Now that we've played, most teams have played around 20 games. I'm starting to feel more confident in just using the 2019-2020 season statistics. Part of the reason that I can do that is because I've actually built, and sorry, these tabs are slow switching, but I've built a linear regression using a larger data set. So I went back, and the key with that is not going back too far, but having a large enough data set that it's meaningful. So I went back to the 2018-2019 season. So that gives us 2 full seasons, and then whatever, when I had done this, about 10 or 15 games total for this year. I've built those using the linear regression. I built that. So now, it will take sort of like what a team's goals for is and what their expected goals for, based on the regression. So using the expected goals for and the expected goals against, I can now build out a little bit more confidence in my picks. And the reason I wanted to do that is by using previously, to start the season, obviously there aren't enough games from this year, so you have to use previous year's data. But the problem is there are teams that haven't historically been good, maybe even last year, who have got off to a really good start, and there are teams who were good last year who haven't been that great. So for instance, Toronto has been not good at all this year. And if you come back to our power ratings, You can see I have them. They're like ranked like 23rd, 23rd, 24th. They're 9-9-4, which is not good. They're not in a playoff spot. But last year, even though it really started to taper off, January forward last year, they're sort of like a 500 team. So the first half of last year, they were really strong. But because they're a playoff team and they had a win record and they were scoring lots of goals, that was overinflating sort of what they should be this year. And then conversely, a team like Arizona, they're playing really well. And, they've sort of sustained that over 20 games, whereas the first 5 games, it was overinflating. It would have overinflated this too much. And just by using last season's data, it had them as losing too much, and not valuing them enough. So we're sort of at a sweet spot now. It's a little bit tricky sometimes, and then some teams don't really change year over year. Like Washington, Pittsburgh, they're fairly solid. LA, Detroit, they were awful last year. They're awful this year. So the polar ends, other than the Tampas and the Torontos, who have sort of come back down to earth a little bit so far this year, they don't change. But really in the middle, and in the middle is where you make most of your money, because this is where you're getting the closer odds. This is where it becomes important to really figure out, like, what is a team, not what were they last year, not what could they be after 3 games, but really what are they. And so that's what we've been really trying to work on here. When we say we, I mean me. So that's sort of what I've been working on. Again, the model it's been working really well. I like this draw aspect. It's been profitable for us, and I also just like seeing where the value is, and seeing, it really starts to paint a clear picture. You can see, the Jets here, even though we have them favored at 50.1 or 50.9%, sorry, realistically, that's probably going to be them winning on a coin flip in overtime or shootout type things, right? And yeah, and then these bet amounts that I'm getting here. That's just the Kelly criterion, which I'm pulling from another page right now, because again I've switched to just this year's data. Usually I would use like a half Kelly to show like sort of where I'm at, and then I would bet fractional after this. But this is still skewing sort of some of the results. Like this Buffalo game, for instance, Buffalo versus Minnesota. If I didn't knock it down, it had like 28% for Buffalo that I should risk, and obviously I'm not going to do that. So I'm using 8th Kelly right now, and that's sort of what I'm doing. And then obviously I have the puck line as well. So the puck line is nice too, and I usually use this just for reference. So again, the odds are not correct for the game that's in here right now, but I would just adjust this, and then it would just tell me. So, in this case, and again, these odds aren't correct. Let me pull the right odds, actually. What are they? 249 and minus 120. The point is, when it will pull in, and it will tell basically the percentage that they're going to win by 2 or more. And so if the win percentage here, so let's say these odds were, I don't know, 310, which is crazy, but let's just for sake of argument. So if they were 310, then they would need to have a win percentage where they win by 2 or more goals of 24%. And this is, again, based on wrong odds. This is telling us 27%. So in this case, there would be some value in betting the puck line, which is minus 1.5 goals. So I have that option as well. So we can look at the best value between a puck line, regulation line, a draw, overtime included. And then lastly, of course, we can look at the over-under as well. So this just takes the expected goals and sums it up. It hasn't been super reliable. Again, that's not the goal of the model. The model is predicting the outcomes for the winners. So the expected goals, they're usually like relative to each other. They're very correct, but they can either be a lot higher or a lot lower. So a lot of times, if I think a team, like if it's saying that a team's going to be a draw, oftentimes it will, or like the second highest percentage is like 3-2. You will often see that the outcome is the team's tie, or team X wins by 1 goal. But where this might be telling us 3-3, it could be 2-1, it could be 6-5 type thing. So I use it less for the totals. I still have the totals there. If something's like really out of whack, then like a goal and a half difference or something like that, then I might lay on a total. But really, it's for finding who's gonna projected win. All right, had a bit of technical difficulties there. I'll cut that out, but yeah, that's it for now. Follow me on Action Backers. Guys, channel's growing. I think we're at 300 subscribers now. I really appreciate the support. I love all the comments I get. I know a lot of you guys are new. If things don't make sense, just leave a comment. Follow me on Twitter. Talk to me on Twitter at Action Backers. Love talking to all you guys. And hopefully you've been making some money. Guys who are following my free picks, again, I don't know what to tell you. It's been really up and down. I think what I'm going to start implementing is honestly just go through this and just take whatever the highest percentage to bet, that means the highest edge, and just pick that and throw that out for the day. My free pick is up for today already. I took Buffalo, and the reason for that is you see Colorado here, but I haven't actually bet them yet. I'm waiting to see what the starting goalie is. They've had a lot of injuries with their starting goalies, or all their goalies. So like the other night, they were down to their fourth string goalie against Vancouver. So I just want to see. This might change, depending on who the goalie is. I might not bet it. So don't necessarily bet Colorado today. Follow me on Twitter. I'll try and update that. But my free bet of the day is Buffalo. I like them there. And obviously, if you're watching this in time, then take any or all of these or whatever. Appreciate the support. Okay.